Okay.
So, what we got so far?
Huh? I'm here.
Are you sure you're there?
I think so for the
Still
most
here.
part, yeah.
The update made the dice smaller on Fantasy Grounds.
Oh, it did. That's weird.
Okay. Well, since Chip has still not joined us, but he says he will be here, why don't we go ahead and roll for a recap? I guess Lucas isn't back yet, is he?
Don't
Or
think
he's
so.
faking it, so he doesn't have to do the recap.
Either are distinct possibilities. So how's everybody doing?
Good
Seem to be
and
short
fed and
vacation.
happy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we lost him. You didn't prepare your new character?
Nope.
Try again.
There we go.
Had to go deal with some hornets real quick.
Oh, that's exciting.
A likely story.
Yeah, they got
Like-
3 nests going around my house right now, so had to spray
If
and
I
run.
could get
Only 3.
the Hornet Slayer to roll.
Whew.
All right. Looks like Aravan's going to be doing the recap.
Yet again.
But before you get started, let's give Chip a couple more minutes.
All right.
That way we don't have to do the recap twice.
Probably best that way. I noticed you changed the background a while ago. Is that because we're on a new book?
It's It's just to give you some motivation.
Food for thought. Yeah, that's just freaking peachy.
So you're saying we should join up our forces with the cultists? Then we definitely win.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you've got lots of options here.
Us on their side, it's basically guaranteed victory.
So, well, I guess I'll still wait for Chip.
Meanwhile, at the bathhouse.
Actually, that's where we're going to start.
Oh no.
You got yourself into this mess.
I didn't intend to.
I'm just saying, you went and found him.
Yeah, but I didn't think it would lead to this. I mean, can't the girl just have a conversation?
No.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Lessons have been learned, okay? I'm not allowed to be unattended ever again.
I thought we already established that.
Clearly, it didn't work.
Didn't take.
Well, at least I freed up some space in the bag of holding.
Oh, that actually would be a good thing to start with while we're still waiting on Chip. As the recap will make clear, you've made it back to a settlement where you can probably do some trading and potentially acquire and or craft items of magic power. So if you have anything that you might like to look for or possibly construct, then you've probably got just a little bit of time to try to do something like
People
that.
you want to talk to?
Some hookups?
Yeah. Then people you need to find and talk to.
You need to take a bath.
Any companions you need to sell out.
Lots of options. Lots of options here.
So the hides are taken care of. Bones we're working on.
So, Caden, in particular, I'm speaking to you. If there's, magical items that you're interested in that you have not acquired yet.
Lucas, you took 6 of the bones, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that what you gave me?
You still have that item reference for...
Yeah, should be out there in the shared folder on Google Drive.
Can you link me to the shared folder on Google Drive?
No,
Oh,
I'm
the,
starting to think you just aren't. You just don't care.
Are you talking about the sane magical prizes?
Well, just items in general. Like, I know...
That has both the same magical pricing and the items.
Oh, okay. Maybe I am talking about that then.
That one.
Oh, come on. Open, you stupid pile. Yeah, just use Adobe. Piece of shit.
I was having the exact same
I think I made a mistake.
Uh-oh.
Mistakes were made.
When I married Allie, I didn't know that she was addicted to puns and that she would randomly walk downstairs and ask me this question, just so she could pun me.
We love you, Allie.
She's immune to
No.
fun damage.
I refuse to pass that on.
Oh, I will.
You can hear her still.
You know you want me to. You mean you'll have to hear it twice. Quick, somebody ask me if we have any crackers.
Do we have any crackers?
No, we are cracker-licking.
A plus.
You're welcome.
A plus.
Thank you.
That's why I love her.
See, can you still say you love her?
Yes,
My new favorite alley.
without a doubt.
You're now the new favorite Allie.
Oh, who's the other?
I don't know. Apparently, Lucas had another
I don't
Allie.
know any other alleys.
Sorry,
She's my
Allie.
new favorite.
No, actually, he's actually saying he didn't know any other alleys. So,
You just moved up into his known ally
Yeah.
list.
Number one in my book.
it's kind of like how Adam's my favorite brother.
Yep. Adam's my favorite brother.
Wait a second. That's
I guess
not nice.
technically
Your adopted
they did
brother is
adopt
right
me.
there.
So, anyway,
She'll be
now
happy
that
I'm not
Numa's
the
finally
dwarf
joined
anymore.
us.
I'm sort of here.
All right. Well, we have an hour and 45 minutes before I pass out.
Oh, goodness.
That's it?
Yeah, I've been exhausted all day, so this is probably gonna be kind of a shorter session.
Sweet.
All right.
Sweet.
So let's get going.
So, last time we accepted the scroll of teleportation from the Raven, and we reappeared in some enormous, fancy room made like entirely of marble. And after a brief bit of exploration, we found that we had reappeared in the Mages College inside of Waterdeep. And so, after a brief confrontation with a couple of the mages, one by one, the party members managed to make their way out from the Mages College and got into contact with Leosin, who informed us that he was gathering a number of individuals for a council. And something we were able to notice was that his city was like super packed full of refugees from like all over the place, fleeing a number of towns and cities across the world from these dragon cultist peoples. And Leosin told us that it might take a couple of days before everyone will be here in Waterdeep and ready for the council meeting. And so in that meantime, we were taking care of all the like shopkeeping business, like anything you need to buy, sell, craft, and all of that good stuff. Currently, question for Caden and or Numa. We can make use of some of the dragon bones to craft a wand or a staff. If either of you would like to try for that, we have the bones to do it.
What are the characteristics of a staff made of dragon bone?
I believe it's
Beautiful.
awesome.
Well, let's do that.
Well, okay. So first, before you get back into the nitty-gritty of making items, which I highly encourage you guys to be thinking about and communicate about, during the week, because we have a limited amount of time on Tuesdays. I'm specifically looking at Adam.
Okay.
So, but before all that, would Aravan like to go into slightly more detail about
I think it's
the
necessary.
happenings at the tower?
Oh, the tower, okay.
So we had no idea where we reappeared at the time, and so Aravan was just confidently striding in because we had no idea of knowing whether or not the Raven was from Leosin or not. And so while some of the members of the party were like, well, we should probably be cautious because it could have been sent like from cultists or something, Aravan was like, no, Numa told us that it's from Leosin. So he believed it 100% with all his heart, and so just confidently walked about the place, and in doing so managed to follow a number of mages through their college, and in doing so stirred up some shit whenever he realized that some of these people aren't the biggest fans of the cultists, and Aravan was still wearing the black dragon mask. And so Aravan...
That's so great.
So Aravan got a couple of his things taken away whenever he was trying to basically swear to these people that he was in line with them and like he wasn't a bad guy and all that, because he was trying to cast things like Zone of Truth on himself. And some of these higher ups didn't like it when Aravan was trying to cast spells in front of them because they didn't trust him. And so he basically got slapped around a little bit, got his stuff taken away, then was told that he can get it back later after they talk with
He
Neos.
got grounded. You can have your stuff back when you learn to behave.
Yeah, that's a fair summary.
But,
And
that's just nitty-gritty details.
and Octavia, would you like to explain where you went and what you did?
Octavia's clean now. That's all that matters. Clean odor-wise, maybe not soul-wise.
Okay, so I really don't care about what happened at the bath so much as why you went.
Well, so last time she was in Waterdeep, she met with the guard, and the guard happened to be part of Aravan's family's guard, and he was inquiring about Aravan, basically wondering if I had any information regarding his whereabouts, because apparently he's a terrible person who murders mothers. But, I'm like, you know what? I don't really know this guy. I don't really know this guy either. So give him a shot before I turn him in. So I didn't say anything. And now I'm like, you know what? He's been on our side for a while. I feel bad about lying deep down, about not knowing him, but I'm not ready to turn him in yet. But I want this guy to know that it's in my head. I don't want him to think I just laid him off the table or whatever. So I'm like, hey, Mr. Knight.
You slept with the guy.
Things got a little out of hand. She went to have a pleasant conversation, and she realized that she was very dirty from, fighting poop monsters and fighting off tentacle beasts and dragons. And, she realized, well, I haven't showered in a long time. Is there a bathhouse around here? And he's like, yeah, I'll take you to. I'm like, wow, that's really nice of you. Then that's besides the point, really, over here.
So,
anyway, she went to him and she's like, hey, look, there's a lot of evil in the world. I think we just need to focus on the greater evils instead of the lesser evils. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying not right now because I need backup evil reinforcements to help fight greater evil. And then, maybe we'll figure out where the evil really is on this fine line we drew in the sand. Yeah. He's like, okay, that's reasonable. I'm like, oh, good. Whew, that's a weight off my shoulder. So I might possibly stab Aravan in the back, but now I have more time to think about it with a clear conscience.
So,
That's important.
as you're taking, as he's escorting you back to your hotel, or the inn where you're staying, he is asking you, politely, if, while you're making this tough decision and you believe you've got, you're going to have to use all the resources at your disposal, whether you've heard the latest news and if you might be able to help him figure out if Aravan might have somehow been involved.
What newest news are you speaking of?
It has been maybe a 10-day ago that Arthagast Ulbrenter was murdered, more properly assassinated, here in Waterdeep.
That name strike a bell? Because Amanda-wise, no. Octavia-wise, possibly?
Octavia-wise, no, it doesn't say anything to you.
Okay. That's good. I have not heard of these happening. May I ask why you think Aravan may be involved in such a tale?
He is the last person I know of who has assassinated a noble inside of Waterdeep. This Arthagast Well, I do not know for sure, but rumor has it that he may have been one of the masked lords of Waterdeep. If the rumors are true, his assassination is a great blow to the city. I do not know what sort of game may be afoot here, but I worry when known assassins make their return.
I would be happy to inquire about this. However, I feel, thinking back, I'm trying to think of if Erevan was really out of their sight for long. I know he went on his own thing for a little while, but she was with Baron during that time. So I'm like, were we even here 10 days ago?
No, you've been here like 14 hours.
No, I mean like last time. The last time we were here, was it 10 days ago?
Last time you were here, it was probably a month and a half ago.
Okay, well then I would feel confident saying that I don't believe him to have anything to do with this assassination. At least personally. I'm not saying that it's not possible to hire help, but I'm confident in saying that he was not here for that assassination.
All right, I will accept your statement on his behalf.
But so useful.
I do continue to worry about it, and you. If you are in any way involved with his kind, I hope you are not, and I hope you stay safe.
I will do the best I know how, and I will keep you informed.
I do greatly appreciate that.
The dogs will bark. But I'll try and keep you informed on our journeys and our whereabouts. And I will keep an eye and hopefully an ear out for the happenings, as you've mentioned, of the assassination. Maybe there's more to be known than what I've heard so far. Something to look into.
And with that, he kind of returns to more neutral topics, escorts you to your inn, and takes his leave.
I will gladly go to my room and begin praying. I said last time.
And
wait for everyone to.
Even though it doesn't necessarily matter to the storyline, I don't think that Bahamut as a god is going to necessarily object to you having friends at the bathhouse. So
you have friends in clean places.
As far as that goes, I don't think if you're praying for guidance, that's great. But
guidance maybe. There's a lot happening. Should she stab her new friend in the back? Should she not stab her new friend in the back? You just met a new friend that's very friendly.
These are the questions of our time.
These are the days of Octavia's life. Anyway, so now that Numa and Caden are with us, is there anything you guys would like to do? Including, crafting things, wandering about town.
Yeah, I think that bow staff made out of dragon bone is maybe a worthy thing to take down the dragon cult with. That is just so poetic.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to go for possibly a +2 weapon if I could swing it. I don't know if that's...
A +2 weapon.
I think that's in range. Wherever my money... not quite.
A +2 weapon would run you 4,000 gold.
And we have some of the components that cut the price, right?
Yeah, using the dragon bones to make up the components would half the price.
Okay.
If all you want is just a +2 weapon, then that would be probably doable. If you want to add additional enchantments or make it somehow special, that will be more challenging.
Can that be done later? Can we circle back and add enchantments down the line?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so yeah, I'll stick with the +2 for now.
And you want a staff?
Yep, that's what Caden uses.
Okay, so I believe that the rules I read, the staff is 2 bone units. Or 4 bone units.
4 for a large.
Yeah, 4 for a staff.
Okay, so 4 for a staff.
Yep.
And Numa, were you also wanting a dragon bone staff, or were you...
It could be a quarterstaff, I think, for a monk.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So that leaves 2 additional bones.
Are we still making the armor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, good.
That'd be the plate.
Yep.
That's all I care about.
And what kind of staff did you want, Numa?
I don't understand the question.
Magical
Do you
properties.
just want a staff?
Dragon bone one.
Does it need to be magical for you? I mean...
Well, I guess that's why I was asking, is there inherent... is there something inherent with the dragon bone that makes it
There is.
more effective as a weapon?
The inherent nature of the dragon bone makes it badass and cool. But it does not mechanically aid you in combat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd just be cool. I haven't really thought about magical. So what are the options there? Is just a +1, +2, whatever, on attack? Is that what we're limited to?
Well,
Or are we limited by my imagination?
And your pocketbook.
I'd say largely you're going to be limited by your pocketbook.
Okay.
You can, in theory, enchant just about any spell that is in the book onto a magical item.
There's also items of
there's-
life stealing.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of items. It's just a matter of, can you
Well,
afford it, and do I want to allow it for the purposes of the game?
So here's what my imagination says, is that I carve the end of the staff into the skull of the dragon, and then the magic is that skull is on fire.
So you want basically a flaming weapon.
That would be awesome.
So
Be aesthetically pleasing.
Well, it would scare the crap out of people, and maybe I light people with fire as I hit them.
So a flame tongue dagger is 5,000.
that's basically what the equivalent would be. And that's kind of how most of the magic stuff works. It's like if you get an idea, we can usually find an equivalent somewhere.
Yeah.
And then basically it's the same kind of crafting, just instead of a dagger, it's a staff. Or instead of a sword, it's a mace.
You always pay extra for branding.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you definitely pay extra for specialization.
So that would, if I had replaced my existing quarterstaff, then it would be 1d6 plus 3 on bludgeoning, and then would it be some kind of fire damage on top of that?
So, for example, if you wanted a flame tongue staff,
Mm-hmm.
what that would do is you use a command word, and flames erupt from the staff. And if you want to confine it just to like one end, then we can make that work.
Yeah, one end is what I would. Yeah, what I was thinking.
So it would shed light in a 40-foot radius, basically be a bright torch. And while it's on fire, it would deal an extra 2d6 fire damage to any target it hits.
I like it. Yeah, I don't have a lot of gold here, do I? I don't have a lot of gold. Gosh. Yeah, we need some money.
We should have a lot of gold.
Yeah.
We literally
Right.
just raided a dragon horde. We should
Well,
have
I don't know
lots
that
of
I actually put in the gold right. Yeah, like, I didn't put any of it in.
I guess you left yours behind then.
Well, you know, must months.
Dang it, Numa.
You should
He
have
invested it all
100
into
platinum
China.
pieces and 1,075 gold pieces.
How many platinum pieces did you say?
100.
Which is worth 1,000 gold.
And then the gold pieces was, what'd you say?
1,075.
So, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. If you figure out what you want, shoot me an email, text, any of that kind of stuff, and we can kind of work out all this stuff offline.
Okay, that's what I want. Flaming dragon head
Make it happen.
quarterstaff.
Now, just so you know, the flaming quarterstaff, it will be magic and it will do fire damage, but it is not going to be a +1 flaming weapon. It's just a weapon.
That's all I need. I want the additional damage from the flames, right? So will I get the bludgeoning if I hit them plus the flame?
Yep, so it'll be basically your standard quarterstaff damage plus 2d6 flame damage.
Ha ha ha.
Okay. So.
Put that on thing with the short sword in one hand and quarterstaff in the other or something. That's going to be awesome. I may have to do some odd jobs to afford this. So we may have some some side missions being.
You could clean Pete Feeling.
Time to start grinding.
I may have to do some mercenary work here.
Let's go kill some pigs.
Yeah, let's go kill some people.
Speaking of mercenary work, so you guys are, you collect back at the inn. Leosin has not yet returned, but he's made it clear that the inn where you're staying is safe, and the people who run it are trusted. So you guys settle in for the night. You've, placed your orders for various things with different merchants around town. You've either made payment or promised payment, depending on your cash situation. And as the evening is wearing on, you're in town, so it's a little harder to see. But you do notice that the night is somewhat bright. And one of you glances out the window, and between the rooftops, you can see a full moon is rising. And at almost that same moment, you feel something like a shift in the air. And even though you're inside, it's like the shutters on the ground floor windows kind of blow back. It's not like it's a strong wind, but a small gust of wind kind of pushes them open. And all of you feel this strange sense of unease. It's almost like there's a drop in air pressure, like before a deadly storm, or even faint tremors from a landslide or an earthquake. And you can tell you're not the only ones who've noticed.
Can I do an Arcana check to see if it feels more natural or not natural?
It's all happening too quick for you to make an Arcana check.
Oh, geez. That's not good.
The city around you has gone quiet, unnaturally quiet. There's no dogs barking, there's no birds squawking. Even the street vendors seem to have gone silent.
Boy there.
Shit.
Are we close to ocean? Water deep, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Tuluftagen.
And that's what you hear in that moment of silence. And the note just keeps going and going. and finally it doesn't so much stop as it just fades to where it's like it's gone to a range where you can't hear it. But in some ways you can still feel it.
It's not normal.
Well, that was interesting.
Not a normal sound.
And now you can make your Arcana check.
Yes. Cool. What? Well, it's natural 20, okay? Still proud of me.
There's no such thing as a natural 20 on a skill check.
I'm still proud of me.
None of you know what this is. Octavia is certain that it has to involve some kind of magic, because there's no horn that could have been that loud that anyone that she could, it was like, you just can't get a noise that loud out of something natural.
I mean, would it be more like a sound of like a war horn or like a steamboat? Like, I'm stuck between those two right now.
You'd say it's, in as much as you can identify the sound, it's probably more along the lines of maybe a war horn. I mean, this isn't like the horn of some boat stuck on the reefs or anything. I mean, this is.
There's a meaning, a calling. What? Not a boat. Not a boat.
What the meaning or the calling, or you have no idea.
I say we go outside and prepare for battle.
I'll follow
in the city.
Xavier will pull out his bow.
I'll follow. I'll see what's going on. Take a last bite of whatever I was eating and walk out. Assume I was eating.
So as you all head outside, you can see other people on the streets. They've started to kind of go back to their business, but instead of it is getting later in the evening, but even the sort of boisterous city noises that you've become used to when you pass through a place like this, they've died down, and there's much more people conversing in whispers and glancing around nervously and scurrying here and there. You don't see like members of the city guard like running around calling out to make formations or anything like that. It's just everyone's just unusual. It's like.
Can I like look at like the first person who seems a little sketched out and like ask them, "Hey, is this something that happens here often?"
Just looking, no, I've never heard anything like it. I don't know where it came from.
Okay, well that's good to know. New things. Okay, thank you.
Look up
Carry
in
on.
the sky.
Sky looks perfectly normal.
Did that chill go away you mentioned earlier? Or it's still kind of hovering?
Did the what go away?
The chill, you said like there's this unusual drop in temperature type silent.
It didn't. It didn't actually drop in temperature. You just felt.
Well, no, but like, yeah.
Like an uneasy shiver. It's dissipated. Like it's not as intense as it was when you first noticed it, but it's also, I wouldn't say it's gone completely away.
Okay.
Xavier will throw up the hood of his cloak to activate it, and I'm gonna go check out the dock real quick. I'll be right back. And
Perhaps we should not be splitting up at this point in time, perhaps until we can find out what is the source of that noise.
That's what I'm looking for, the source of the noise.
And we should all go towards the docks.
Yes, how far is the dock from here? I mean, it kind of was like an over everything sound. It wasn't really like towards the left or towards the right, was it?
No, it's just a. I mean, you could kind of hear it coming from everywhere.
And did you say there was a fog that rolled through?
No.
Okay. Is there any kind of building that might have a higher vantage point nearby?
Oh yeah, there's some taller buildings around.
All right, Xavier's gonna do his mage hand rope trick and get a sight line, pull down his goggles, and be all gargoyle up on top of a building, trying to see as far as he can for the source of the noise.
As you look around, you see the city of Waterdeep kind of spreading out all around you. You're high enough up that you can see the harbor, and out onto the ocean. The moon is bright enough that you can see it reflecting off the waves. Nothing seems particularly out of place. It's like you don't see like massive campfires on the horizon or anything like that.
I'll go ahead and I'll use the message spell back to Erevan. Doesn't look like we're being attacked by an army and there's nothing out on the water.
I'll inform everybody else.
Are there guards nearby? Like city guards?
You're not seeing any particularly close to you, no.
Okay. Well, if we happen, as we're walking, if we happen to walk near one, I'd like to ask them if they're familiar with what the noise may be.
We don't know where Leosin is presently, do we?
Nope.
No, you don't.
Don't we have that little messaging, magic message thing, Majig?
Yeah, I can do that.
Maybe he knows what that sound was.
Wait. Third level?
So how far are you guys going to go away from the inn as you're just kind of investigating?
I only went as far as that building, so however far that is.
So that was like a block and a half away.
That's where I'm staying until I...
Yeah, just stay in a circle about a block and a half away from the hotel just to see if we see anything.
Base of Xavier's building.
Yeah, and I'll keep an eye on them so I know where they're going.
Yeah, I'll do a message to Leosin, and I'll say, I know we're supposed to be meeting. I'm sure you've heard that noise. Any idea what it entails? And where you are? I can fit all that into 25 words.
Yeah.
I can write it down.
It's okay. And the response you get back is, stay where you are. The noise is surely meaningful. I am on my way. The council must meet tonight.
Leosin is on his way to meet us here at the inn. We may as well stay here. He said the council is to meet shortly.
Erevan's gonna look.
A meal.
And like a plan.
Erevan's gonna look up to the rooftops where Xavier went and kind of shout that up to his direction.
Shh. I can see you. I'll go ahead and start rappelling down, and then have my mage hand pull my hook, and then I'll meet up with the rest of the group.
All right.
Just a quick question about the crafting while I'm thinking about it. Using a bone to half the magic cost, is that how it works? You add an additional bone to half it, or?
No, you take whatever materials are going to be required, and by providing the materials, you have the cost. So it's not like a bone halves the cost. It's like having the 4 bones you need to make the staff is going to reduce the
overall
cost by half.
Oh, okay. So providing 4 bones for a longbow, I would half whatever the cost of the thing I'm trying to make.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I meet up with the group, and I guess I wait while I'm thinking about this awesome thing I'm going to create.
Okay. So the group of you kind of hang out, and you wait until Leosin arrives, and it takes him about 15 minutes to get to the inn. But once he gets there, he's very excited and almost a little I won't say exuberant, but he's agitated. And he says, I had thought we would have more time than this. I was, in fact, meeting with someone of importance to our mission when we also heard that sound. We do not know for sure what it was, but I perceive it to be an ill omen. What is to come? That is why we are calling the council together immediately. We had hoped to wait a few more days and prepare the ground somewhat better, but as I say, I believe time is running out on us. So, all of you, you must come with me. As, well, having played the role that you have so far, you are perhaps the most qualified to speak as to the threat that the cultists place, and you must speak. The counselors will listen. At least I hope they will. So, please follow me, and once we get there, I will make introductions. And after I introduce you, I expect many will have questions for you. I encourage you to answer them honestly and fully. These are perhaps our best allies, or at least our best hope for allies in the fight we have before us. So, let us go. Is everyone ready?
Lead the way.
Yes.
And he starts to lead the way, and just as he's turning to head back out the door, he stops and turns back around, and Erevan, if I might, one moment, please.
Yes, Leosin.
And he kind of steps aside, and he gives you a fairly hard look. And he says, I have been informed of what happened at Mage's College. And
apologies for that. It was a bit of a misunderstanding.
I had assumed so. Your items are, well, they shall be returned to you. I had already collected them where we are going, so you may have them back. But I do have one word of warning. That sword that you carried with you when you entered the Mage's Keep, it is evil. I do not know how you came by it, or if you wish to continue to possess it. But if you do use such a weapon, I'm afraid it will cast doubt upon your mission. I do not doubt your judgment or your dedication to this fight. I felt I must tell you that.
You have my thanks for acquiring what was taken from me. And if you are truly this concerned over the sword and its use, I could put it before the council if you would feel more comfortable. For though the blade itself might be evil, it has helped a great deal in our journey thus far.
I do not wish to require of you anything. I just wish you to know that decisions you make, decisions you have made, will be weighed by the counselors.
Understood.
And he turns and begins leading you all out of the inn. And Erevan, of course, you've been to Waterdeep. You lived there. You know what it's like. And as you travel through the city, you realize you're heading again into the, the Manor District. I forget the name of the place. Let me find the map of Waterdeep real quick. Dude. Okay, well, apparently that's just not what I mean. There we go. Yeah, so you're heading back into the castle ward.
Alright.
Are we supposed to be looking at a map?
No, there actually isn't a map in the game of Waterdeep. It's only on the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. But I am copying the image. I'm going to attempt to paste it in Skype.
That's the one that you pasted that we brought in a long time ago, right?
Yeah, but there it is. You should hopefully be able to zoom in on that. Yeah, it's not a whole lot of detail in there, but you're going to the castle.
Alright.
So, the castle ward is home to many of the nobles of Waterdeep, and find yourselves being led up to a very large manor house. Erevan, you are not entirely sure who owns this house. The rest of you have never seen it. But it is in one of the, essentially the highest ranking areas of the castle ward. To possess a home here is clearly a sign of great power within the city. And as Leosin guides you up to the main entrance of the house, you see a couple of carriages have already arrived and have parked out near the entrance. The door guard is dressed in livery and is prepared to welcome you in. He nods greetings to Leosin, and Leosin says, "These are the adventurers that I have spoken to Lariel about." The guy just nods his head, opens the door, ushers you in. And he turns around once you've gotten inside and quickly says, "I do not know if you are aware, but this is the home of the Open Lord of Waterdeep, the Laurel Silverhand. She is..."
Does that name ring a bell?
It certainly would for Erevan. Although the fact that she is the Open Lord is surprising. Just very quickly, the way Waterdeep politics works is there is the Open Lord, and that person is kind of the head of a council of nobles. And the nobles, no one's ever really sure who all's on the council, except for the other councilors. And they are called the Masked Lords of Waterdeep. The Open Lord is the one who heads them up and is, basically given the open responsibility of governing. Even if power is being shared by some mixture of the Masked Lords. So
they're like the face of the council?
Yeah, and basically this is as close as you get to like the governor of Waterdeep.
All right.
Head honcho.
Erevan, the reason you're somewhat surprised is that the last you remembered, Lord Dagalt Neverember was the Open Lord of Waterdeep. And it does change on occasion. But whatever change has happened must have happened relatively recently. Oh, crap.
Just as a housekeeping item, Xavier took off his hood, put his goggles on his forehead, and holstered his bow.
Okay. So, just real quickly. There's one guy. And there's the other lady. So, the Open Lord of Waterdeep is a representative of the Lord's Alliance. And all of you would have some idea of who and what makes up the Lord's Alliance. It is basically the leaders of the major settlements along the Sword Coast. And while they are not truly a unified government, they understand that there are times they all have to work together to confront some greater evil. So, the Open Lord is basically Waterdeep's representative to the Lord's Alliance. Neverwinter has one. Yes. Neverwinter is also represented. Dwarves, elves, everyone with kind of a stake is there. So, you guys get into the house. You are ushered into a very, very nice conference room, effectively. It could be a dining room, but right now it's being used as a meeting room. And inside, you see two people. One, a tall female human wizard. Or you say tall female human. She does seem to be wearing robes that might be associated with a wizard's normal attire, but it could just be fancy robes. Then you also see a stout human male. He looks to have a great deal of command in his bearing, and he seems to have almost like he's standing up extra straight and being extra polite in the conversation that he's having with the lady that's also present. And Erevan, while you've never met this person in person, you recognize the man as Dagalt Neverember, Lord Dagalt Neverember. You know that he is effectively the ruler of Neverwinter, the Lord Protector of Neverwinter. And until very recently, you understood that he was the Open Lord of Waterdeep as well. So this is a very formidable person. You also see in the room there is an elf, a male elf, wearing a small garland that has a striking resemblance to a crown. You see a stout male dwarf. It's armored, unarmed, but he seems to have, felt as though armor were the appropriate attire for this particular meeting. You see another large or very tall human male, not armored, but with the bearing of a military man. And so far, that's everybody that's in the room. Over the next few minutes, as you guys kind of, wait with Leosin. Leosin occasionally will go over and talk to another member. He doesn't necessarily introduce you just yet, but you do catch some curious glances coming your way. Then the door opens, and a female moon elf comes striding through. And you can see Leosin take notice and come directly over to her. And as she is standing fairly close to you guys, you hear him say, "Lady Remy, I am glad you could be here. These are the adventures that we have been talking about for some time now." And he brings her over to meet you specifically. So who wants to act as kind of the spokesman for the group?
That was Lady Remy?
Yes, that's what you heard him say.
All right.
And as he walks her over, he says, "Friends, this is Lady Remalia Haventree. She has been a very generous and kind patron of mine for some time. I am sure that her words will bear great weight with this council, and it is through her guidance that I have been able to support all of you."
Taking a deep bow, Aravan will address her in Elvish, speaking. My lady, it is a great honor to meet such a longtime supporter and ally of our friend Leosin. Any friend of his is most certainly a friend of our own. I only wish that the circumstances under which we are forced to meet were of a happier nature.
And she smiles at you and responds in common, so that everyone can understand her, and says, I too wish that this were a meeting in happier times. But all have felt the sting of the dragon cult in these last days. I myself have felt it most keenly. However, I thank you as a representative of the Order of the Gauntlet for your kind words. I am sure that your good example, the example of your friends, will guide us in our time of struggle and strife. And those of you who are harpers and joined with Leosin early on, you see her kind of making some very small gestures with her hands while she's talking, and you notice that one of the things she's doing is essentially giving you the sign that says, I recognize you as harpers, and know that I am on the watch.
Do we know how to respond in kind? I'm not sure I've been...
No, you learned some of the signals and some very basic, like, countersigns. You have not learned enough to try to be covert and smooth the way she was.
What's wrong with your hands?
Not long after she comes in, you hear a somewhat familiar stomp stomp as Onthar Froom comes walking into the chamber. And he looks over at you all, particularly at Octavia and Aravan. Kind of smacks Aravan on the shoulder, gives Octavia a giant hug, says, I knew ye would do a good job standing up to those dastardly cultists. Tell me, how many have you killed?
More
Not nearly enough just yet.
I guess it depends on how you read it.
So what did Octavia say?
More than we have fingers and toes.
Well, that's excellent. Excellent. I knew I was making the right choice sending ye. Now, I hope to hear many great tales of your heroics. But for now, I'm afraid you may have to perform your story for a much larger audience. Perhaps not in the same kind of detail that I hope to hear someday. But know that we all appreciate everything that you've done. I've heard some bits and pieces from Leosin, his communications with you. I certainly hope that everything he has said is just the beginning. But come. We have much to discuss. And it looks like we're mostly here.
Looking around the room where everyone's convening, is there like a spot where food is?
Oh my god.
There is not.
The worst.
You've seen it.
A long meeting.
You've seen a servant come in with goblets and kind of walk around the room, but no one's been bringing food. It is like, 11 o'clock at night.
People can eat. It's just, Good to know. Okay.
So.
You just talking between two, but we're good. We're good.
Over the next 30 or 35 minutes, more people arrive. And ultimately, you are gathered with ten different counselors. And then there is Leosin, and then yourselves. And once everyone has gathered around, the lady in the robes that you first saw when you arrived steps up, and she says, "Counselors and friends, I greatly appreciate that you have all gathered so quickly. We have all been troubled and harassed by the activities of the cult of the dragon, and particularly by the reports of the dragons themselves taking a hand. Waterdeep swells with the refugees who have fled here from burned out villages and towns. I know it is much the same where you are as well. That all the common folk strive to find a place of safety and protection. And we are being stretched to our limit to provide that protection for them. That is why we have called this council. It is time that we all come together. Members of the Lord's Alliance, representatives of the Order of the Gauntlet, the Emerald Enclave, even our mysterious friends, the Harpers. I thank you all for coming. I know that some have already suffered greatly at the hands of these cultists for their evil machinations. I will yield the floor to one such. Many of you may have never met her, but Romalia Haventree has been a wise and kind friend. So, please hear her, weigh her words carefully. Know that she seeks the destruction of these cultists and their evil kin. Protect us all. Romalia, if you wouldn't. And each of the counselors, kind of gravely nods. You can look around and tell that they all are, they're all here because this is serious business. Something has to be done, but it's just as clear that when you have as many different people and races and perspectives, that finding agreement could be a challenge. And Romalia steps forward. Yes, I do not know how many of you have ever heard of me. I certainly am aware of your eminences and the great deeds that many of you have done on behalf of the people of the Sword Coast. What I wish you to know is that I was the husband, or was the wife, of Arthur Gast Ulbrinter, a man of some eminence here in Waterdeep. At one time, a masked lord of the city. And now, the victim of murder, assassination, by the servants of this cult, who seek to strengthen their hand by weakening ours, by murdering us in our own homes. It is not out of a desire for revenge that I seek to destroy these cultists. Though my grief is great, it is the recognition that unless we unite together, we shall not withstand this siege. I have gotten reports from trustworthy allies that it is not just mercenaries and brigands who have allied themselves. There are, in fact, chromatic dragons who have been seen leading and participating in the destruction that has been wrought in our lands these last months. We began to look into this scourge some 4 long months ago. Honestly, we were investigating rumors of it even before then. But it was almost 4 months ago that Leosin, a brave and wise monk, Stonefist Monastery in Burdusk, and a friend and ally to me, was able to gather evidence that the cult of the dragon, which has long been a thorn in civilization's side, had become something different, something other. They no longer sought to raise dead dragons to do their bidding, but instead were seen making alliances with living ones. During his investigations, he was kidnapped, tortured by these cultists. But he was able to learn much about them. It was his bravery and sacrifice that have brought us here today. Perhaps even more, it is the bravery, the sacrifice of these fine adventurers. Strangers to all of you, I know. But they have pursued the cult. They have sought to undo its web. And they have struck a blow. A mighty blow against the cult and against its devious mission. I ask each of you, please give your attention and closely weigh the actions of these 5. These champions who have risked their lives for all of us. Champions, I would ask that you relate to us what you have seen, what you have done since Leosin first set you upon this path. There is much that we may learn from you, and much that we all must consider. Before I yield the floor to you, I wish to introduce each of the counselors for you. You may know some of them. Some of you may, in fact, know all of them, for all I know. But I believe some of you are already familiar with Onthar Froom, representative of the Order of the Gauntlet, a mighty warrior for justice. We also have with us, here she gestures to a half-elf male who is dressed in kind of forest greens and browns. We have Delan Winterhound, representative of the Emerald Enclave. I'll give you guys these names, so hopefully you can remember them. Somebody should probably be taking notes.
I've got some.
There is, of course, our host, Lady Laurel Silverhand, the representative for the Lord's Alliance from Watchdeep. Lord Dagalt Neverember, also a member of the Lord's Alliance, representative of Neverwinter. And here she motions to the dwarf. This Ambassador Conrad Braunanvil. Here on behalf of Mithril Hall and all the dwarf holds of the north. Here she points to another human male, Marshal Alder Ravengard. Representative of Baldur's Gate and leader of the Flaming Fist. We also have His Highness King Melendrak of the Misty Forest. Here she motions to the wild elf.
I bow my head at him, towards him.
I do the same.
We also have Tan Hornblade, representative from Silvery Moon. And finally, a great champion in his own right. A great champion in his own right, and representative of Cormyr, the Purple Dragon Knight, Sir Istval. Now, I would ask that each of you come, speak your part. Tell us what has happened. Help us know our foe, so that we may plan our next attack. And as she is stepping aside, you see somebody come into the room, go over and whisper to Lady Silverhand. And She kind of nods and steps up and says, excuse me for just one moment. A message has just arrived. I'm sure all of you felt and heard that sound, that horn that sounded above the city this very night. It is the reason we called the council so suddenly, and at such a late hour. I have just been informed of what that noise, that sound was. The disturbance was created by an ancient device known as the Drackhorn. I am told that in ancient times it was used as a call for all the dragons of the realms to gather. I do not know where this gathering is to be. I do not know who has sounded it. But I am assured that the dragons will hear it. And even if not at first, they will eventually answer its call. It is indeed dire warning that what we face has grown bold. So, please, if you will, tell us where you have been, what you have seen.
Is there like a large table or something in the middle of the room?
There is.
Xavier's gonna walk up.
There's no food on it.
No, perfect.
Nope, no food.
Xavier's gonna walk up and pull the Tiamat tapestry out of his bag and unfold it onto the table.
Okay.
And say, as you all know, we have been dealing with the Cult of the Dragon. We know that they are trying to resurrect, or at least they were trying to resurrect Tiamat.
Right before you say that, the dwarf, the one introduced as Ambassador Conrad Braunanvil, is going to interrupt you and say, actually, son, we don't know. That's why you have to tell us. I know it's claimed that you've scored some great blow against this cult. I've not seen it, nor has it brought relief to me and mine. So perhaps you start from the beginning. Tell us who you are and why we should believe you.
My apologies, Council. I am Xavier Shadowleaf of the Mistwoods. I have come to this party in order to seek justice done to my people against who were terrorized by a red dragon. Now, we have gone through and we have tracked where the dragon cult was taking some of the funds. I believe we first encountered one of their higher-up followers in a swamp. And I am blanking on where the swamp was.
No, the swamp was actually a second encounter. You forget the first one was us green, Leosin.
Was I there?
Was you there?
Xavier.
You're a character for this campaign, yeah.
No, I came in partway through.
Right?
Yeah, he came in partway through. At first, it was Octavia, Caden, Aravan, Numa, and some ranger guy.
Ranger guy. Oh, well then...
Feel free to step in, Octavia.
Yes, let me fill you into before the swamp, then. I forget. Xavier's been such a companion with us for so long, I forget he hasn't been there the whole time. We started in location south of the place we began. The town, the dragon that we fought.
Reno.
Need a map.
For all of our sakes.
You tell the story.
You start telling the story. And
no, this is the recaps were practice for this.
Recaps, I agree.
Okay, fair enough.
Take it away.
Ryan did most of them, okay? I just can't remember I'm bad with names, so I can't remember the town name. But, south of the town...
Hang on, let me bring you up a map of the Sword Coast.
Oh, God, that'd be perfect. I could go all day long with the map.
Your turn. That's what the castle.
I'm going to pull out a map and put it over the tapestry. Like, no, let me go first.
So let's see. You guys are no longer near Longsaddle. You're now smack dab in the middle of Waterdeep.
There, south of Greenest, as I was saying. Obviously, that's the town name. We found an encampment. It was after the Greenest was terrorized by a dragon, but we weren't able to fight that one in full force at the time. Then we infiltrated their camp to the south, and we were able to take down a portion of them. Not many. Our main task at that time was saving Leosin, and we managed to rescue all the prisoners without much bloodshed. However, that gave us an idea to follow them on their endeavors. They went west and then up along the coast, and we kind of followed them.
Wait.
Yes,
Tell me about this encampment you found in the south.
This encampment to the south. Oh, there's definitely more I'm leaving out there. More important. It was this flat area inside of a cave type scenario on the outside, and there was even a cave that they were guarding, it seemed, for a while. And, Amanda wasn't present for the time where we first entered the cave, so I might need some input here. But there were some...
Yeah. Any of you guys feel free to jump in. They specifically asked for all of you to tell the story.
Caged dragon creatures and...
God drakes, kobolds, a number of humanoids. This is where we first made contact with Leosin.
And even further in...
So there were dragons there.
There were even dragon eggs there, black dragon eggs.
At that, you hear, everybody kind of sits up and sort of start whispering towards each other. And Lady Amalia looks very interested and says, there were dragon eggs. What became of them exactly?
Well, I can't guarantee that all of them were recovered by us. However, there were 3, I believe, that we got our hands on. I think Numa smashed one, I burned one.
And at that, you can see her start to frown. And the male half-elf kind of jumps up. Smashed? Burned? What? Why? Why would you do such a thing?
Yes, Octavia. Please, tell us why you would do such a thing.
But before I go there, we should mention that Aravan managed to save one. And we weren't sure it was wise to keep a baby dragon or to raise a hatchling dragon, or we weren't really sure at the time it was wise, but Aravan talked us into him keeping one in full.
And the representative from the Emerald Enclave, the half-elf, Delan, you can see he's upset, and he starts trying to tell you about how even chromatic dragons are still part of the natural order, and to destroy their eggs simply because you found them is basically a crime against the natural order. That there is no need to do such a thing. And you can see Romalia is kind of tuning him out, but she is talking to Leosin and says, if we can find that last egg, we may be able to use it for leverage. Surely we can learn something valuable with it. And Onthar speaks up and he says, if there were black dragon eggs that needed to be destroyed, the last thing we need is more blasted dragons hatching out and coming to attack us. That's what we're here for in the first place, is to deal with these blasted dragons.
I would have to agree with him. I don't think it was very smart to leave dragons with the chance of birthing themselves when we had at least one known at the time we had yet to kill, and we could tell that they were doing experiments on the caged dragons, and I had a flashback memory that you explained to me, but I can't remember at the time, but I'll go into detail about that with them, saying that this is stuff that happens,
And as you share more of these details, you can see that most of the counselors seem to accept that it was necessary to do and may have been possibly a good thing to do. Some are still kind of like, you've wasted an opportunity. We could have used them, we could have done something, maybe we could have used them to barter with whoever the parents were to withdraw their support. I mean, there's a lot of crosstalk kind of at this point, but it's clear that not everyone is pleased with the decision that you've made.
Well, good thing we went 50-50 then, and Aravan can explain why he decided to keep his egg.
Aravan's definitely agreeing with that second half.
So, the representative of the Harpers, Romalia, and the representative of the Emerald Enclave are both kind of talking to, or trying to get Aravan to explain where the last egg is, what's been done with it, and those sorts of things, while the other, half of the council is saying, let's move on. What's done is done. No point, trying to bicker about it now.
I'm not positive because I switched methods of taking notes. Effectively, right at the time that the egg was handed over, I believe I handed it to Auvert. It was either Leosin's or Onthar's wizard amigo who liked magic items.
In Burdusk.
Yeah.
I think it was in Burdusk. I don't remember exact, but yeah.
I remember that basically you sold it.
Might have
the
been
shards, right? The broken eggshell stuff.
Yeah, I sold the broken eggshells, but he
took the
gave
whole
it
one.
to like a sanctuary to make sure it wouldn't be harmed and that they would watch it for him.
Didn't we take it to Numa's Monastery?
Maybe Numa's Monastery in Burdusk with Leosin's wizard person there.
Well, someone's just going to have to go back and watch that episode. Let us know.
But I know that
if you guys aren't going to take notes, what do you expect me to do about it?
I didn't take notes for that because I wasn't there.
That's no excuse.
Yep. Council members, if I may, that's done now. The next part of our journey was meeting with Leosin at El Torel, and then we made our way to Baldur's Gate. And we made contact with some of the cultists there. they were shipping out containers guised as road workers.
I would like to add, we went to El Terrell because the encampment that we invaded and rescued the Ocean from had evacuated and taken all of their treasures and everything else northward. So we were trying to follow their lead. And that's how we came across El Terrell and where Xavier is leading off. So we met Xavier, so he knows now. That's what got us in that direction.
I look to Alder Ravengard, and I say, the House Xander was housing one of, for lack of a better term, one of the generals that was reporting to someone, we don't know who.
House Xander is a den of villainy and thievery.
Yes, and they were housing dragon cultists.
I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not.
Yes. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we went along the long road with the dragon cult trying to find out more information, and we ended up in the bog at that point, right?
There was a very long road. It wasn't all Dragon Cult, but it was Dragon Cult infiltrating road crew. Yes.
To water.
And,
was it
they
to
actually,
Waterdeep or to the bog? I can't remember which one was
it
Waterdeep.
went to Waterdeep, and then from Waterdeep to the bog.
Right, we kind of just passed through.
Which I don't think we actually found the cult until after Waterdeep. So before then, it was just kind of like, hey, I think they went this way, following kind of like word of mouth. I don't think we actually.
It was on that journey that we first encountered a Red Wizard of Thay, Asbar Joss.
Where was that again?
Did you say a Red Wizard of Thay?
I did indeed.
Oh, that's no good. Anything the Red Wizards get involved in is sure to give me a headache. This is coming from Tarn Hornblade. You know Silvery Moon is kind of it's more of a metropolitan sort of atmosphere, or a very diverse. They're welcoming of pretty much all kinds. And it is over to the north of the High Forest, near some of the dwarf cities. It's mostly humans, but it's kind of overseen by elves. So.
Stupid map.
What's the stupid map?
I'm
only
stuck
seeing,
in
like,
Baldur's
the
Gate.
bottom bit, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought when I locked view, it meant you guys were going to be following my view the entire time.
You locked us to the bottom corner.
We're trapped.
So,
I can't unfold these corners. Can you help me, please?
yes, there we are.
You're so useful.
Octavia,
Now
stop
go
moving the
middle.
map around. Unfold it in its entirety.
Oh, there we go. That's much better. I think it's tapestry was getting my way.
So from Waterdeep, we continued to travel with them into, I believe it was the Mere of Dead Men. That's where the bog was.
Yes, I did not like that place one bit. That was terrible, terrible time.
And
All around.
With this, Dagalt speaks up and says, "There's a stronghold within the Mere of Dead Men."
yes,
Not anymore.
it is.
Karnath Roadhouse.
Well, there's the roadhouse, but the castle is, I believe, was
It's
Castle
like right
Nertar.
here. By the D in the Sword Mountains, I believe.
I was not aware there was any settlements within that bog.
Yes, it is also the home to 2 black dragons.
Which we were able to learn. But we were able to infiltrate that castle type area, they've called.
With the assistance of the local lizard folk tribes.
Yes. Snapdragon was very useful. And our own wit to infiltrate through transporting ourselves through a box was able to give them a surprise attack from the inside and attack from the outside, which gave us the vantage point we needed to take down the entire castle in short, swift blows. Till we met the spiders.
The 5 of you stormed a castle.
With about 30 lizard folk.
And
we did have a lizard folk.
you can see a couple of the counselors kind of smiling and kind of nodding their heads like, that's pretty good, actually.
Of course, I just sold the one thing that we took from that place, so...
and then
yes,
we
and
were able to meet.
there was an arcane device there.
This general of the cult, you say, what became of them?
Well, we met the
That's the
black
next leg of our journey.
half dragon.
Yes.
Were they at the stronghold in the swamp?
The black half-dragon was, yes.
Yes, Resmir was there, along with the Red Wizard, I believe we said we tried to find.
Asboro.
And someone else, whose name I don't recall, but murdered swiftly enough. We don't need to know his name.
Splattergoo.
Splattergoo.
Oh, that one. Yeah, Drumore.
Splattergoo. I like that name better.
No, that was the frog dude.
Oh. I forgot about him. There was him too. He was very, very mean, and he ruled over the lizard folk like they were nothing. But we took care of them, and now the lizard folk are living happily, hopefully. But yes, as we mentioned, there was the arcane machine that allowed us to see happenings.
Caden, would you like to elaborate on that? You're more of inclined to know what all that was.
The arcane device?
Yeah.
Caden probably remembers. I think I actually missed that session.
Well,
basically,
you did
Caden
the
started to
astronomy tower
describe
thing.
a scrying device that looked a lot like a telescope that allowed him to see. He could focus upon a thought or a place or a person, and this device would allow him to see that person or that place or that thing.
As long as it was within like 30 or 50 miles or something like that. It had a distance.
Yeah, it was of a limited range, but
It's still very awesome.
And in that castle was the study of Resmir, the Black Half-Dragon. We found numerous books with some key names. Wormspeaker Voran. The Red Wizard's name was in there. The White Dragon's name, Glazehail. Blagothkis, who is the giant ruler of a flying castle. Narrowvein. Kuth, whatever. And the 2 black dragons were key names in those journals, as well as details of rituals on how to revive dragons that have been deceased.
I believe there were also some entries about a number of masks.
Yes,
some of the cultists wear.
Do you
we've
still have
since
that
learned. I will look over to Leosin, ask him if he still has that black dragon mask.
Say it again.
Does Leosin still have his mask?
Yeah.
No, you had the mask. They didn't take that from you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
see? Took that with the sword.
And you have it on your face.
I will pull out the black dragon mask. Because I was told not to wear it on my face. So I'll pull that out and then basically inform the council about its powers and how this is only one of presumably 5 masks.
And Caden will explain the notes about the ritual involving those masks and what it seems they were trying to do.
And
I think they'll still be able to do it even if they're missing one mask.
And the fact that you've got this mask and that you're able to, basically explain some of the mechanics of how you think they're going to try to open up a portal, it horrifies the council members. They were prepared for, some sort of alliance of dragons and having to maybe send out like an army to go fight. Something like that. The idea that these people actually want to bring back an evil deity into the world is well, the representative from Baldur's Gate makes a brief speech about the horror and terror and destruction that can be wrought by the birthing of an evil god anywhere within a civilized land. As Baldur's Gate was, well, it's still recovering from the rebirth of Baal, the god of murder, within its streets.
Xavier thinks, well, that goes without saying. Xavier, while we're given the story, I want to take a keen eye, addressing everyone face to face, and I want to get everyone's reactions as we're saying these things. Someone that might be, not off-put by something that we're saying, and more of a surprised, like, oh, you found that out, kind of thing.
You can tell that Romalia has already been informed of what you guys have just said.
Right.
Yeah. You already told Leosin. You assumed he had kind of spread the word around somewhat.
Okay.
Most of the counselors seem to be quite taken aback by it.
Okay.
However, there is some good that came out of this.
Yes. Shall we go from the castle then?
Yes.
Yeah, and just to for time's sake, in real time.
Talus the White, who I assume holds the white mask.
Well, we're gonna fast
and now
forward.
we may have giants on our side.
And yeah, so you explain about Skyreach Castle. You explain about the fight.
Kill the white dragon.
The dwarf representative is particularly upset at the idea that you let giants have this castle and that you didn't, you bring it back and use it as a base of operations, or, it's just the idea of something so grand and wonderful in the hands of giants is just sets him off completely on the wrong footing.
It really was out of our hands, seeing that it was the giant who was having it move, and you can't really take it away from the giant, or the whole castle won't be able to function and it'll fall apart to pieces. So, really it was all we could do.
He's not really listening at this point.
Yeah.
He's fuming over this.
Start calling you cottonies.
I echo Octavia's statements just to the rest of the council, just to make sure everyone knows that we have an ally, a potential ally, who is willing to fight the dragons.
Who is also joining forces of his own.
An army of
giants.
He's
not happy that the Red Wizard murdered most of his...
Basically, this guy more or less says that, you were rash, you acted too quickly, you should have gotten reinforcements before assaulting this castle, in which case you could have taken it over. And like I said, he's not really paying attention to your arguments.
I think you missed the part where we had to sneak in pretending we were cultists on a wagon.
Well, we did kill everyone in the castle except the giant.
Going forth, Aravan's going to purposely avoid addressing the dwarf. Talking to the other members of this council.
Well, that getting off the castle brings us to receiving the raven from Leosin and getting here back to Waterdeep as soon as we could.
And as you kind of take a feel of the room, you can tell that you've made a good impression on just about everybody. And there are some decisions people disagree with. There are things that, whether they accept your statements about what was reasonable or what you had the ability to do,
Yeah.
But you don't think you've got anybody working against you at this point.
I'm going to look and be like, you know what? I didn't really realize before, but we've been through a lot of shit.
Yeah, we have been through a lot of shit.
How do we lay it all on the table? I'm proud of every single one of us.
Ownthar is very pleased with what you've done. He agrees wholeheartedly that smashing the dragon hatchery is the right thing to do. He's proud of you for killing Rezmir. He really wishes you could have killed or captured Rathmodar, but he understands that wizards are
elusive,
difficult.
I can guarantee we tried our hardest.
Oh, we did.
And the fact that he's clearly on your side seems to carry some weight with the other counselors. Leosin is the same way. Some of the counselors seem to rely on his word for your deeds. You can tell that he and Ramalia they're a little disappointed that they don't have the dragon eggs for leverage, and the half-elf representing the Emerald Enclave is a little upset that someone would just so wastefully destroy something. And strangely, you get the feeling that Lord Dagalt is also a little upset about the dragon eggs. He was a little more quiet, but he does suggest that it would have been wiser to try to keep them and then sell them to responsible individuals and use the funds you raise to hire more mercenaries, more fighters. So, but overall, you've pretty well got everybody on your side, and most everybody except the dwarf understands about the castle. So maybe there's just some long-standing hostility between the dwarves and the giants that needs to be addressed there.
Some jealousy,
But
castle envy.
I was going for height envy, but
Going for height envy.
But overall, the counselors seem quite pleased, and you kind of get the impression that you've kind of gained at least their notional approval. And it's at this point that things kind of break up. You take a break. Everyone sort of mills about.
Finally,
There's still no food because it's still now it's like 2 a.m. No one really wants to eat.
This is hell. They make us talk. They barely give us water.
You were eating right before you left for this meeting.
Doesn't matter. She's always hungry. We've had a very active day.
Xavier wants to just make a note to go over to King Malandrak and just ask him, has there been any other word from the villages?
And he tells you basically that things are relatively quiet in his part of the world, or in your part of the world. that he understands that these things are important, but the elves have handled these things for eons, and he does not think that it is wise to act rashly.
I agree completely. Just making sure everyone was safe. Well, if you catch word of a red dragon, please let me know.
And he says that he will. After everyone's had a chance to kind of refresh themselves, the council's kind of called back in, and Lady Silverhand addresses you guys. As we have all been impressed with your deeds, and we thank you for all that you have done. It is, well, times are dire. If things were different, we would celebrate you and give you the rewards and rest that you so amply deserve. However, I am afraid that time is now running out. I have consulted with the other councillors, and we are unanimous in agreeing that if you are willing, we would see you continue the fight you have begun. There is much that we all must do, and none of us are suited for the task that we have in hand for you. If you are willing, we would ask you to go in search of the Drakhorn. I have consulted with Master Hornblade. We have called up what knowledge we have of the legends of this horn. And the last known, or at least the last presumed location of the Drakhorn is where we would seek to send you. Are you willing? Will you continue the path that you have so bravely begun?
We will see this through to the end.
Agreed. There's a debt that needs to be repaid.
Then I give you this mission. To the north is a place called the Sea of Moving Ice. It was the last known location of the Drakhorn. None of us know whether it is still there or not. But if you could verify the relic is there, it would be of great use to us. If it is not, it is still the place at which the new search must begin. There is one person that should be able to give you more information. Tiefling sorcerer called Rukath Crimson. No one alive knows more about the Drakhorn than she. And the Arcane Brotherhood, of which she is a member, would be a valuable ally for us. The problem is that she went to the Sea of Moving Ice. I believe it's been 3 years now, and has not been heard from since. We ask that you go seek her out, or seek out her fate, and the location of the Drakhorn if it can be found.
So this Sea of Endless Ice, is that this really wide area up here on the top part of the map? Cold.
It is to the north of Neverwinter, to the north even of Luskan.
I'm following it on maps, like, oh dear, that's going to be very cold.
It is near the settlements of Icewind Dale.
Quite a ways from here. We are in Waterdeep, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Let's make sure we have our winter cloaks.
yes, I will be doing some shopping.
Yes, I encourage you to prepare yourselves, but
And
you
I
do
mean, I
have the
might
support of
suggest-
this council, and we have ways to assist in your travels.
the really great assistance would be any ham, if there's any available, that really brings up spirits on a cold winter night.
Not the time.
I believe what she's trying to say is any sort of financial assistance for supplies for this journey could be useful.
I would then understand.
The supplies that you need while you're in Waterdeep will be provided. And she, motions to one of her servants and whispers and basically and says, "You will have my mark to use to gather provisions, supplies. I will seek to assist you in any way that we can. But please remember that I am responsible for the safety of this entire city. We would seek to help you, but please do not take advantage of that to the detriment of the city."
Of course not. Let's get ham and horses and be on our way.
Unless there's a faster way to travel than horses, I don't see much else that we need besides cold weather gear and some food.
Definitely cloaks. We will need some winter attire, but I think we'll be just the bare necessities, and we could make it.
Well, we wish you well, as you have already demonstrated your close relationship with Leosin. We would simply ask that you continue to communicate through him to pass messages back to us.
We will do our best.
You wouldn't by chance have, a more reliable way of sending a message over a great distance? Maybe a stone of sending or something of that nature?
Pigeons that don't crush very easily.
Not pigeons, no pigeons.
We may perhaps be able to find something for you,
Very useful.
but it is now late.
Very, really.
I know that we all need our rest, you in particular. So, I would like to call a close to this first Council of Waterdeep. Please, be careful. Give us messages when you can. Most of all, find that horn.
Yes, unhorn.
And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Snap.
All right.
Do you guys feel like you've been appropriately introduced to the new book now?
Jesus, that's
so.
a lot of names to remember, okay?
Yeah, a lot of names to remember.
It's alright, we're never going to see them again.
Even copy and paste them.
Well, that's one assumption.
Did you know
We're
you
just going to
could
go on
just
Game of
drag
Thrones.
names?
And we're going to keep just hearing these names. Like, do we know who that
Crossed off the
is?
list.
Should we know who that is?
Did you get my Skype message, Ben?
I did.
Okay, cool.
I have not actually looked at it, but I saw that you sent it.
I guess the real question is the things that we are commissioning going to be ready by the time we gotta leave?
I guess you'll find out next week.
Ah,
I just have to say, 'cause I just, you know, you can click and drag chat from chat box to your notes, so you don't have to type it. You can just click and drag it. I just found that out, so I'm like, oh my God.
Someone needs to start an open Google Doc that's got all of like important people.
Shortcuts. Oh.
Yeah, something.
Oh, that sounds like something you should do then.
I am terrible with that.
For it.
Man, what do you mean?
Hey, I provide video. Okay,
that's true. You provide video evidence.
Provide text.
Text is a whole different skill.
Exactly, and I'm not good at it. I do numbers. I don't do text.
Maybe Numa will do it.
We need to hire a court.
He does China.
A court reporter.
He does China.
All right, everybody.
All right,
y'all have a good evening. I want to go collapse now.
All right. Yeah, that was good.
Adios,